On a silent Friday night in Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, 144 passengers booked in the Air India Express came face to face with what would be the worst nightmares of their lives. Half an hour after a successful takeoff for Kochi, Air India Express experienced a critical hydraulic failure. However, due to the talent and discipline of the pilot together with the crew, one could have witnessed a very big disaster. In this extraordinary case of an air disaster, people prefer to underline the presence of unpredictability in the air traveling business and the importance of expert knowledge and training in the occurrence of such scenarios. Here's how it unfolded. The flight takes off. At around 6, the Air India Express flight IX-613 left in the evening from the Tiruchirappalli International Airport with 144 passengers, including children and 6 crew members on board. To many, it was the first indication of the weekend ahead, or a return home, or even a holiday. They relaxed, some stared out the window at the last light of the evening, and little did they know their flight would be a story they'd share over and over in the following years. A short while after takeoff, the pilots became aware of some faults afloat the hydraulic system of the aircraft. The hydraulic system plays a critical role in the operation of an aircraft and includes such things as brakes, landing gear, and control surfaces, among others. A failure in this system can put into question the capability of the pilot to land this aircraft. Realizing the possible hazard, the captain and first officer consequently informed the ATC and declared an emergency. The ATC permitted them to land first, and the flight was cleared to go back to Tiruchirappalli. However, getting to the decision of landing was not an easy decision to make based on the type of failure as seen above. The challenge? Circling the skies. Hydraulic failure means that the risk involved in landing an aircraft becomes very high. There can be problems with crucial components such as the landing gear in the airplane, and braking capacity might also be affected. To prevent an uncontrolled landing due to fire, the captain began to circle the skies above. He did it above Tiruchirappalli to burn excess fuel. The aircraft stayed airborne for more than 2 hours, and the crew was handling the situation as well as attempting to reassure the passengers. The pilot was able to manage the aircraft well and kept food despite all the engineering hurdles. A tense atmosphere in the cabin. In the cabin, there was nervously recharge. The passengers on board the aircraft, perhaps not aware of the emergency, felt that flying was taking an unusual long time. Some passengers became nervous, and other passengers demanded an explanation from the crew of the cabin. This being a routine that the flight attendants are well equipped to handle, the ladies stood up to the challenge. They strolled around the aisles, offering directions and making sure that individuals were observing the precautions being taken. The passengers were told to make sure that they had buckled up and made sure they did not have anything movable on them, as the aircraft may be making an emergency landing soon. One passenger later recounted the moment they realized the gravity of the situation. "We were admonished to fasten our seatbelts and brace up for an emergency. It did not cause any alarm along the crew, but you could see the grimace on their faces. But then we realized something bad is going to happen." Nevertheless, the impressive organization of professionalism of the crew in charge helped to avoid such complete anarchy. Relatives clutched each other's hands, some closed their eyes to say prayers, and some looked at the crew and copied their relaxed expressions. Ground preparations, a city on alert. Landing around the plane, preparations were being started at the ground level firmly. There has been a full emergency declaration made by the Tiruchirappalli International Airport. First aid cars, fire tenders, and other related vehicles were mobilized and parked beside the runway just in case. Airport personnel, in consultation with the airline and the other first responders working around the airport, did all that was possible to ensure that the lives of those on board were safe. Other pilots of the incoming and outgoing flights were informed about the incident, and the airspace around Tiruchi was kept free for uninterrupted operations of Air India Express flights. Most of the families that were waiting for their loved ones at the destination airport in Kochi received the news of the emergency as a bolt from the blue. Messages were created on relevant social networks, and the phone came with questions. People called, "Where is my family?" The final approach. After exactly 1 hour, The aircraft's download indicated it had begun descending after 8 p.m. Pilots consumed enough gasoline to make sure that the landing was more secure, but the issues related to hydraulic failure have not vanished. The captain, depending on his training and experience, made preparations for what many might have considered a dangerous landing. In the cockpit, it was business as usual, tense and professional. Everyone in the cockpit spoke and explained every aspect of the landing to the ATC. With very little hydraulic support, the pilot moved the aircraft in a way to position it on the center line of the runway. On the ground, emergency workers waited with bated breath as the airplane taxied to the last runway was lit and all the servicing assets were prepared to respond on the first call if required. The landing, a moment of relief. It arrived on the tarmac just a little past 8 in the evening. Nonetheless, there was a problem with the hydraulic system. The landing was done orderly as expected. Puffs of sparks appeared when the landing gears, with restricted hydraulic, came to the concrete surface. For a split second, the plane seemed as if it were going to swerve in the wrong direction, but the pilot corrected it. When the plane touched the ground, those on the aircraft breathed a sigh of relief. The passengers started clapping. Some passengers were crying joyously, saying thank you, thanking for a successful, miraculous kind of, and the firefighters and the other operators immediately moved to the side of the aircraft in order to check whether everything was secure. All the passengers were evacuated without even a single report of an injury having been sustained. Some passengers shook the hands of the drivers before exiting, and others embraced the officers as they exited the bus out of relief, fear, and even joy. Aftermath and investigation. In the hours following the landing, the aircraft was towed to a maintenance hangar for inspection. Engineers began investigating the hydraulic failure to determine its cause. The Directorate General of Civil Aviation launched an inquiry, as is customary in such incidents, to examine whether proper maintenance protocols had been followed and to prevent similar occurrences in the future. Air India Express, in a statement, commended the pilot and crew for their professionalism and courage in handling the emergency. The airline also extended its gratitude to the ATC and ground staff for their swift coordination. Passengers shared their accounts with local media, describing the incident as both terrifying and awe-inspiring. "The pilot was nothing short of a hero," said one passenger. "We owe our lives to the crew. Their calmness kept us together." A lesson in preparedness. Such a situation should help remember the difficulties that aviation professionals have to face and the necessity of serious preparation. Each part of the crew was critical to achieving a safe result, down to the pilots in the cockpit and the flight attendants in the cabin. To the passengers, it was a lesson in humility, a lesson highlighting the capacity of life, and their lives in particular, for choppy waters, let alone turbulent ones, in more ways than one. Others stated, thanks to so many people in the aviation industry and that hard trainings, which prepares people for solving such a complicated crisis with responsibility and kindness. A night to remember. The events of that Friday evening in Tiruchirappalli will remain etched in the memories of everyone involved. For the 144 passengers aboard Air India Express Flight IX-613, it was a journey that began like any other but ended with the unforgettable story of survival. While the incident highlights the risks associated with air travel, it also underscores the resilience of the human spirit and the triumph of skill over adversity. As one passenger amply put it, "It was a miracle in disguise, but it was made possible by the courage and expertise of those who never gave up." And that is how the story of courage, dexterity, and survival at the Tamil Nadu skies. Such times make us honor and value the unsung heroes back at home. When did you hear about this great rescue? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.